The name Luis Nery is one that still brings a surge of anger to Japanese boxing fans. To them, his legacy will always be tied to the downfall of one of their nation's most beloved fighters, Shinsuke Yamanaka. In their eyes, what happened between these two men was not just a pair of defeats, it was an act of betrayal, a violation of the sacred trust that defines competition. Nery's role in ending Yamanaka's career remains unforgiven, not only because of how he won, but because of everything that came after. He didn't simply beat Yamanaka, he destroyed a national hero's final chapter. In their first meeting, Yamanaka entered the ring as the unbeaten WBC bantamweight champion, a man who had defended his title 12 times and symbolized Japanese precision, dignity, and consistency. But that night, Luis Nery, a young, explosive Mexican southpaw, was relentless. He pressed forward with bad intentions in every punch, overwhelming the older champion with volume and aggression. The result was a stunning stoppage victory that sent shockwaves through the boxing world. The undefeated Yamanaka was finished inside the distance for the first time, his aura of invincibility shattered. But soon after the celebration, the victory turned sour. Nery tested positive for a banned substance called zilpaterol, a drug sometimes used to enhance muscle growth in livestock. The test result cast a long shadow over what had appeared to be a breakout moment in his career. Although Nery's team claimed the result was due to contaminated meat, the Japanese public was unconvinced. To them, it felt like cheating, like an assault on fair play itself. The WBC allowed the result to stand, but the stain of controversy clung to Nery like a second skin. Still, Yamanaka, ever the warrior, demanded a rematch. He wanted redemption, or at least closure. Japan's fans rallied behind him, seeing the rematch as a chance to right a wrong, to reclaim not only a championship belt but also a sense of national pride. But then, Nery added insult to injury before the second fight even began. He failed to make weight, coming in far above the bantamweight limit. It was a blatant act of unprofessionalism, one that forced Yamanaka to decide whether to fight under unfair conditions or withdraw and disappoint his supporters. With characteristic courage, Yamanaka went through with it anyway. What followed was a tragedy in motion. The fight lasted barely 2 rounds. Nery, heavier and stronger, blitzed Yamanaka from the opening bell. He floored the Japanese legend and finished him mercilessly, celebrating wildly afterward as though nothing about the circumstances was tainted. To Japanese fans, it was the ultimate act of disrespect. They saw Nery as a villain, an arrogant foreigner who had disgraced their champion and laughed about it afterward. Yamanaka retired soon after, his career ending not with applause but with pain. But time has a way of bringing new heroes to the stage. Out of Yamanaka's shadow emerged a fighter who seemed built to carry Japan's hopes into a new era, Naoya Inoue. Known as the Monster, Inoue was everything fans could ask for, a prodigious blend of power, speed, precision, and composure. He was a technician with a killer instinct, a man who could dismantle opponents methodically or annihilate them in seconds. For years, Japanese fans dreamed of seeing Inoue do what Yamanaka never could, punish Luis Nery and reclaim Japan's honor. That moment finally arrived. When the fight between Naoya Inoue and Luis Nery was announced, anticipation reached fever pitch. This wasn't just a championship bout, it was a reckoning years in the making. There would be no excuses this time, no failed drug tests, no missed weights. Nery was fit, focused, and fully aware that the entire boxing world, especially Japan, was watching closely. And Inoue, as calm and confident as ever, approached the fight with the cold precision of a man on a mission. The opening round, however, shocked everyone. Nery came out aggressively, showing no fear of Inoue's reputation. He pressed forward, throwing combinations with authority, forcing Inoue backward for the first time in recent memory. Then, out of nowhere, Nery landed a clean left hand that dropped Inoue to the canvas, a stunning sight. It was the first knockdown of Inoue's professional career. The crowd gasped, commentators struggled to find words. For a fleeting moment, It seemed like history might repeat itself, Nery, once again, spoiling Japan's pride. But champions are defined not by how they fall, but by how they rise. Inoue got up, steadied himself, and began to adjust. The second round showed the resilience of a true master. He returned to his jab, began timing Nery's rhythm, and found openings in between the Mexican's wild swings. Every movement had purpose, every punch was thrown with surgical precision. He waited for Nery to overcommit, and when the moment came, Inoue unleashed a lightning-fast left hook that caught Nery flush on the chin. The crowd erupted as Nery stumbled backward, suddenly aware that the tide had turned. From that point onward, the fight transformed into a showcase of Inoue's brilliance. He began dictating the pace, punishing Nery with pinpoint combinations and perfectly placed body shots. The same left hook that had sent Nery crashing to defeat once before against Brandon Figueroa became Inoue's weapon of choice. He mixed up his attacks beautifully. Left to the liver, right cross upstairs, quick pivots to create angles, and that constant forward pressure that broke opponents mentally long before their bodies gave out. By round 3, Nery was fighting on instinct. His head movement slowed, his feet no longer carried him out of range, and his hands dropped just enough to invite disaster. Inoue, calm and calculating, exploited every flaw. He targeted the midsection relentlessly, each thudding body shot drawing grimaces from Nery. The Japanese fans could sense the momentum building. This was no longer just a fight, it was justice unfolding in real time. Inoue's corner urged patience, but the monster was in complete control. His timing was immaculate. Every time Nery tried to counter, Inoue anticipated, slipping or rolling and firing back sharper, faster, and deadlier. The sound of Inoue's punches echoed through the arena, a crisp, explosive pop that only elite fighters produce. When he landed, there was no doubt. By the 4th round, Nery's corner must have known their fighter was in trouble. His defense was unraveling. Inoue's right hand began splitting his guard again and again, and each connection shook the Mexican's entire frame. The crowd roared with every shot. For the Japanese audience, this was catharsis. They weren't just watching Inoue win, they were watching him erase the bitterness left behind by Yamanaka's defeats. Nery tried to respond, lunging forward with desperate hooks, but his punches lacked their early venom. Inoue, ever the tactician, punished every mistake. He stepped just out of range, reset, and fired back with combinations that were breathtaking in both speed and accuracy. A clean right hand snapped Nery's head back, followed by a sharp left hook that sent him staggering. Inoue didn't rush in recklessly. He knew the danger of Nery's counterpunching power, but he also sensed that the end was near. He started feinting, drawing reactions, and capitalizing on every defensive lapse. The precision of his work was mesmerizing. He wasn't just beating Nery, he was dismantling him. Then came the turning point. Midway through the 4th, Inoue unleashed a beautiful 4-punch combination that ended with a short left hook, dropping Nery for the 2nd time in the fight. The crowd exploded. Nery hit the canvas hard, dazed and unsteady, but somehow made it to his feet before the count reached 10. Inoue stayed composed, circling, watching, and waiting for the perfect moment to finish. As round 5 began, Nery looked like a man walking toward his own execution. His legs were unsteady, his guard low, and his breathing labored. Inoue, sensing the weakness, began to stalk him like a predator closing in. Every move was deliberate, every punch precise. Nery tried to rally with a few desperate flurries, but Inoue's defense was airtight. The Japanese champion countered beautifully, landing a crisp right uppercut that froze Nery in his tracks. Seconds later, Inoue delivered the finishing blow, a devastating short right hand that landed square on the chin. Nery's knees buckled instantly, and he crumbled to the canvas. The referee didn't need to count. The monster had roared once again. The arena erupted into chaos, cheers, and tears. Japan's revenge was complete. Luis Nery, the man who had ended Yamanaka's career, had been vanquished in brutal, decisive fashion. There were no controversies this time, no excuses, and no tainted victories. It was clean, it was pure, and it was devastatingly final. The knockout itself was a masterclass in technique. Inoue's ability to generate power from such short distances is almost supernatural. He turns his punches over perfectly in the final inches of their path, using balance, leverage, and timing rather than raw muscle. That short right hand that ended Nery's night is the kind of punch that defines eras, a weapon so precise that it borders on artistry. Analysts compared the moment to other great finishes in boxing history. Some mentioned Buster Douglas knocking out Mike Tyson, others drew parallels to the calm ruthlessness of Terence Crawford. But Inoue's performance stood on its own. He had shown vulnerability early, endured the shock of his first knockdown, and then delivered one of the most complete displays of skill and composure ever witnessed in modern boxing. As the replay rolled on screens across the arena, the Japanese fans didn't just see a knockout, they saw closure. The years of frustration and anger that had followed Yamanaka's downfall seemed to melt away in that instant. For them, this wasn't simply a victory for Naoya Inoue. It was a restoration of honor. Afterward, even the commentators struggled to capture what they had witnessed. There are levels to this game, one said, and Inoue is on a completely different level. It was true. He wasn't just another champion. He was the standard by which greatness is measured. Luis Nery, to his credit, showed humility in defeat. The bravado was gone. The once defiant smile had faded, replaced by the distant look of a man who had finally met his match. There was no shame in losing to Naoya Inoue, only the acknowledgement that he had faced something beyond ordinary human limits. For Inoue, the victory was another step in an already legendary career. He had become a multi-division world champion, unifying titles and dominating every opponent in his path. Yet this fight carried a different weight. It wasn't just about belts or rankings, it was about legacy. By defeating Nery, he didn't just avenge Yamanaka, he cemented his own place as Japan's greatest fighter of the modern era. Inoue's combination of athleticism and technical mastery is something rarely seen in boxing. His punches are crisp, his defense subtle, and his ring IQ extraordinary. He reads opponents like an open book, anticipating movements before they happen. Against Nery, every adjustment he made was calculated, and every attack was layered with intention. The balance between violence and control is what makes him truly special. In the aftermath, fans and analysts began debating Inoue's place among the all-time greats. Some argued that he was the most complete fighter since Manny Pacquiao in his prime, while others compared his precision to that of Ricardo Lopez. Regardless of where he ranks historically, one thing is undeniable. Naoya Inoue embodies the essence of perfection in modern boxing. As the arena lights dimmed and the replays continued to loop, the story came full circle. Years earlier, Yamanaka's fall had left a deep scar in Japanese boxing, a reminder of how cruel and unforgiving the sport can be. But now, that wound had finally healed. Inoue's victory over Nery wasn't just another fight. It was redemption, a statement to the world that honor, skill, and perseverance can outlast controversy and disgrace. When asked about the fight afterward, Inoue remained humble. He didn't gloat or mock his fallen opponent. Instead, he simply said, "I did what I had to do." That quiet confidence, that restraint in the face of triumph, is what separates the great from the legendary. In the end, Naoya Inoue not only restored Japan's pride, he elevated it. His dismantling of Luis Nery will be remembered as one of the defining performances of his career, a testament to everything that makes boxing beautiful and brutal at once. For fans, it was more than a fight. It was a story of revenge, redemption, and resilience. For Naoya Inoue, it was another masterpiece in a career full of them. And for Luis Nery, it was the night the monster came to collect. So the question now remains, after conquering every challenge placed before him, who will dare to face Naoya Inoue next?